Medical College, and we were studying plant kingdom. We have already completed algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, and a portion of gymnosperms. We in the previous session we have done the important characteristics of gymnosperms as well as its economical importance, and few of the important terms like terms as seed habitat, which was an important step in evolution for the evolution in seeded plants like in angiosperms and in gymnosperms. So from this session, we'll look into the classification of the gymnosperms, that how they are classified. There are four bases. First is the Psychopsida, second is Coniferopsida, third Ginkgopsida, and fourth is Nettles. Okay, so living gymnosperms, they are divided into four classes. First one is the Psychopsida, second one is Coniferopsida, third is Ginkgopsida, and the fourth one is Nettles. So Psychopsida and Cycads. The other name for Psychopsida is Cycads. Psy- Cycadopsida forms a small group of around 10 living genera, not a very large group, but it is a very small group for about 10 genera. They are widely distributed during Jurassic. So they were widely distributed during Jurassic period, which means that they are very primitive, called the algae of reptiles. So they are called the age of reptiles. They are from the age of reptiles. Today they are confined to tropical and subtropical regions. In the ages like the aged back, they were in the age of reptiles and they were widely distributed, but now they are actually confined to tropical and the subtropical regions of Australia, South Africa, Central America, parts of Eastern and South Asia, including India. So, Cycadopsida, the cycads, they can also be seen in India as well as some other regions as well, such as regions of Australia, South Africa, Central America, and parts of Eastern and Southern Asia. But the main and the important thing is that where they are found in the tropical and the subtropical regions, which have a bit cooler climatic condition. Okay. Because of the overexploitation, most of the cycads have become extinct and others are endangered. So, because of the overexploitation, because of the stem, the bark, as well as the resin, the turpentine wood, turpentine oil, which is extracted from these gymnosperms, because of this overexploitation of the plants, they have become extinct, and now they are very few and confined to only few regions, and they are endangered, are called as reptiles of the plant kingdom or panda of the vegetable kingdom. Reptiles of the plant kingdom, panda of the vegetable kingdom. Why they are called as the panda of the vegetable kingdom? Because pandas are also in the endangered species now. Second, they have palm-like appearance. We have seen a palm tree. It is a very long tree, resembles something like this. So they have palm-like appearance. They have unbranched columnar trunk and a crown of pinnately compound foliage leaves at the apex of the trunk. So this is the trunk, and this trunk is unbranched. We have seen palm trees. The trunk, it does not have branches, but the uppermost portion of the trunk, which is called as crown. So that crown is a pinnately compound foliage of leaves, which is present at the apex of the trunk. The leaf bases are persistent. Plants are dioecious. Microsporophylls and megasporophylls are born on separate plants. Okay, so when the microsporophylls and megasporophylls they are born on the separate plant, it is called as dioecious plant. Now cycads are xerophytic plants. Xerophytic plants grow in condition where The water is less where there is shortage of water. So they are the xerophytic plants grown for the ornamental appeal because they look very beautiful. Of them, cycad is the most important one. Its six species are found in India, so there not many species are present. Only 10 living species we can see, but out of the 10, 6 are found in India. Cycas. So cycas is one of the most important one. Now, cycas, the external feature, cycas is a slow growing plant. It is a slow growing plant. It looks like a palm tree. Some species may attain a height of 20 meters. So, first of all, how it resembles like a palm tree. It looks like a palm tree, and some species they may attain the height of 20 meters. So they are long as well. The stem is short, unbranched, and erect with a crown of leaves at the top. As I have already explained, the trunk is long, unbranched. There is no branching, and it is erect, and there is crown of leaf at the apex. The leaves are of two types, arranged spirally in alternate ring of small brown scale leaves and large-sized foliage leaves. So there are two type of leaves, two types, small brown and large foliage leaves. The young leaves show circinate venation. So the young leaf it is showing circinate venation. Stem is covered by persistent bases of leaves which keep on falling down the ear. The stem it consists of the leaves which are which usually fall down throughout the ear. In the cycles, we can see that the male sporophyll and the female sporophyll, the microsporophyll and the megasporophyll, they are present on the different plant, on the different tree. So in the male cone, this is the LS of the male cone showing spirally arranged microsporophylls and microsporangia and microspores. So the leaf-like structure that is microsporophyll refers to leaf, and this leaf-like structure it is microsporophyll. The microsporangia it is present below the microsporophyll. So this microsporangia it is present below the sporophyll, and inside the microsporangia lies microspores. Okay. Now the stem it is covered by the persistent basis of leaves which keep on falling down year after year. The age of the plant can be calculated by counting the number of rings of persistent leaf bases. The There is a ring structure formed due to persistent leaf. There might be leaf-like structure which is present on the cycas. If we have seen the palm tree, they are the debris of the leaves which fall off year by year. So if we have to calculate the age of the plant, what we will do, we will count the number of the rings. So one, two, three, and many more rings like this present. It will denote the life of the plant. So if there are 20 rings present, the age of the plant will be 20 years. Now roots are of two types. One is the normal and the second is the coralloid root. What is coralloid root? We have seen that in the previous lecture that coralloid root it is present in with association. Now first root is normal which is generally taproot. The second root is coralloid roots that are dwarf, irregular and negatively geotropic. With negatively geotropic what means that whenever the root grows it grows downwards. We have seen the structure of root. We make the diagram that the root always grows downward into the soil. So it is positively geotropic. But whenever the root it starts growing from the soil towards the atmosphere, if we assume that this is positively geotropic, this is positively geotropic. Okay? But if the root it starts growing like this, if any root it starts growing like this, it will be termed as negatively geotropic. Okay? So whenever a root it grows away from the soil towards the air or atmosphere, it is termed as negatively geotropic. Since they look like corals due to dichotomous branching, they are called as coralloid roots. The sago grains occur in the cortex of the stem. Because they have dichotomous branching, they are also called as coralloid roots, and there is the presence of sago grain. Sago grain, the sabudana grains at the cortex of the stem, present at the cortex of the stem. In the cortex of the stem, there will be presence of sago grains. Now, when we talk about reproduction, so there are three types of reproduction: vegetative, asexual, and sexual. So vegetative reproduction, it reproduces vegetatively by vegetative buds, which are called as bulbils. When they fall on the ground, they germinate into another plant. So cycas, it will produce vegetative buds, and when these buds fall on ground and they germinate, give rise to adult plants. Now, sexual reproduction. We know that asexual reproduction is not that prominent or even absent in the cases of gymnosperms. So, sexual reproduction, cycles is dioecious. We know that the megasporophyll and the microsporophyll, they are present on two different plants, two different trees of the same plant. Male and female cones occur at the tip of the separate male and female plant. So, there is separate male and female plant, and they will be having male and female tip on them. In cycas, wind pollination or anemophily, when pollination takes place by wind, it is termed as anemophily. On reaching at the mouth or the micropyle of the ovule, pollen grain germinates. So, whenever this is the LS of an ovule, when pollen grain enter and the pollen chamber is formed, here the pollen grain comes and inside this pollen chamber, through this pollen chamber, the pollen grains are released near the egg cell, forms the male gametophyte with a hostile pollen tube and two spermatozoids. So, this on the mouth of the micropyle of ovule, pollen grains they germinate, and when they germinate, they give rise to male gametophyte with two spermatozoids. So, the pollen grain, this is the sporophytic body. This is sporophyte. And what we have to do, there should be a gametophytic body, gametophytic cell, which is going to fertilize the egg cell, and then only fertilization can take place. So, if this is a sporophytic body, pollen grain, which develops from a sporophytic body, it has to give rise to some gametophytic body. When the pollen grain germinates on the mouth of the ovule, on germination, it gives rise to one sperm and male gametophyte, which is sperm plus spermatozoid. So this one sperm or the male gametophyte, it will fertilize with the egg which is present inside the ovule and the formation of zygote takes place. The sperms of the cycas are the largest in plant kingdom, reaching a size of 30 micrometers. So they are termed as the largest of the plant kingdom. They are top shaped with a spiral groove bearing numerous flagella. So they are usually top shaped, top like this, and there is a spiral groove with a lot of flagella. The fertilized ovule ripens to form seed. When the fertilization takes place, the zygote which is formed, then it gets converted into seed. The mature seed is oval to rounded and orange. So the mature seed which is produced, it is oval to rounded and the color of which is orange red. Now, Coniferopsa. The plant group of Coniferopsida are cone-bearing gymnosperms with 500 living species. All conifers are perennial trees. Perennial trees means that they grow throughout their life. This is gymnosperms, which live for several hundred years. So they have a long life and they are perennial trees. Pinus and sequoia can live for more than 4,000 years. So if it is asked that which are the most long-lived trees in case of gymnosperms, so they are pinus and sequoia tree. They reach a height of about 30 meters, pinus more than even 100 meters, to more than 100 meters with sequoia. Conifers show monopodial growth, where the main axis of trunk rises straight from the base and reaches the top. So the main axis of the trunk, it rises straight from the base and it grows to the top. There is no branching, nothing. The plants are evergreen with dense and massive vascular tissue. So the plants, they are evergreen, which means they remain green throughout the year, and there is dense and massive vascular tissues. Branches are of two types, long and dwarf. There are two types of branches. The growth of long branches is unlimited, but those of the dwarf branches is limited. The lower branches are longer than the upper ones. The lower branches, they are longer than the upper ones, like this. So first of all, the plant, it is erect and they are very long. They are very long and there is monopodial growth. Why monopodial growth? Because this trunk, it grows straight from the soil and rises straight from the base and reaches to the top. And there in the stem there is no branching, but at the top there is branching present where the lower branches they are longer, but the upper ones they are smaller. Now this gives a conical appearance to the plant just as Christmas tree. Leaves are borne on the dwarf branches and are of two types. So the leaves which are borne on the dwarf branches they are of two types, foliage and scale leaves. Foliage leaves are needle-like in Pinus and leaf like in Thuja and flat leathery in Orchiria. So the two types of leaves which are seen they are foliage and scale leaves. Foliage leaves they are needle-like as in Pinus and scale-like in Thuja and flat leathery in Orchiria. So such leaf reduce transpiration in dry and cold habitats. Why the leaves they are diminished to needle in order to prevent the moisture in order to prevent transpiration in dry and cold habitats. In conifers, taproot system is extensive. Taproot system is very extensive. Some young roots have mycorrhizal association with fungus. Mycorrhiza helps the plant to absorb water and minerals from water and mineral deficient soil. Why mycorrhizal association takes place? There might be some or the other significance of it. So what happens is that whenever the root they are in association with fungus, the fungus has a very extensive branching. So this branching helps in the extraction of minerals from the soil, whereas the root it will help in extraction of water from the soil as well as few minerals. But if the soil is deficient of minerals, so these roots, the mycorrhizal roots, they help in the mineral absorption even in the mineral deficient soil. Raisin ducts are present in all part of the trees. Raisin not only retains water but also seals the place of injury immediately and protects from the attack of microbe and insect. So there is presence of resin. Resin ducts are present and they are present in all part of trees. Whenever there is an injury, this resin is going to cover that portion of injury and prevent the attack of microbes and insect into the plant. So it is actually an immune system or a barrier type of method which these gymnosperms exhibit. The secondary xylem is homogeneous without vessels and pycnoxylic without parenchymal tissue. So there is no parenchymal tissue and the vessels are not present in the secondary xylem. Pinus show secondary growth. Conifers are usually monoecious. Both male and female cones are borne by the same plant. Cones of strobili are woody and compact. The cones in strobili which we usually see, they are either woody and compact. They are formed between the lateral branches. So they are formed in between the lateral branches. Male gametes are non-flagellate and non-motile. This is a bit peculiar that the male flagellates they are usually motile and they are flagellate. But here the male gametes they are non-flagellate and non-motile. Seeds are naked as we all know and not embedded in the fruit. So there is no presence of seed or the seeds are present but they are naked because there is no formation of fruit because fruit formation takes place in angiosperms. Now pinus. Pinus, the external morphology of the pinus tree is an evergreen sporophyte and attains a height of 150 to 250 feet. Okay? So the height is approximately 150 to 250 feet. It is differentiated into roots, stem, and leaves. It is differentiated like all the other gymnosperms into root, stem, and leaves. It is a horizontally spreading taproot system. So the horizontally spreading taproot system is present. Finer roots are of two types, normal root with root hair and root cap, and the mycorrhizal root devoid of root hair and root cap. The type of root system which is present, it is taproot. And in the taproot, there are two kind of roots. Two types of roots are seen. One with root hair and root cap. One without root hair and root cap plus mycorrhiza. So in the taproot system, there are two kinds of root present, one with the root hair and root cap, and the one with the mycorrhizal or the fungal association, which will be lacking root hair and root cap. They occur near the soil surface. Very obvious that these will occur near the soil surface. Stem is tall with rugged and scaly bark. The branches arise in the acropetal succession, one after the other from base to top, which means that the top branches they are the newer branches, while as the lower branches they will be the old one. This is called as acropetal succession. Near the top and are of two types, long branches and the short branches. So the acropetal succession is present. Acropetal succession is seen in most of the plants. And what does it mean by acropetal succession? It means that the newer leaves they will be present on the top, whereas the The older branches, they will be present at the bottom, the one which will be near the ground. And the branches, they are of two types, the long branches and the short branches. Now about the leaves. So the leaves, they are dimorphic. They are of two types, the foliage leaves and scale leaves. By dimorphic, what do they mean? By dimorphic, they mean that the leaves, they have two kind of morphology. One is the foliage and the second one is the scale leaf. The foliage leaves are sessile, green and needle-like. They are small, sessile, green, and they are reduced to a needle-like structure, and they arise at the apex of each dwarf shoot. So they are present at the apex of the each dwarf shoot. The long branches do not bear foliage leaves. The dwarf shoot along with the needles is called a spur. So if you have ever encountered a pinus tree, there will be long branches and the short branches. So one where the short branches are present, the foliage leaves, they are present at the apex of the dwarf shoot. At the apex of the dwarf shoot, there will be a small bunch of needle-like sessile green leaves, which are termed as foliage leaves, and that portion will be called as spur. The scale leaves are brown, thin, and membranous protective structures. So the foliage, they are green, which means that they will be performing photosynthesis. But the scale leaves, they are thin and membranous protective structures. They are present both on the long branches and the short branches. They are present both. The reproduction, conifers are usually monoecious. By monoecious, what do they mean? That the male and the female cones, they will be present on the same plant. Whereas in Cycas it was dioecious. The male and the female cones, they were present on different plants. The plant produces microsporophylls and megasporophylls in male and female cones respectively. So this plant, it produces microsporophylls and megasporophylls and male and female cones respectively. Pollination and fertilization. Pollination takes place around March and April. The pollen grains, they are discharged as clouds of yellow powder. So if we ever see near the plants a cloud of yellow fibers or yellow powder, yellowish structure near the plant, it is usually the pollen grains that are dusted. This phenomena is known as sulfur shower or shower of sulfur flowers. So the phenomena of the clouds of yellow powder in which the pollen grains are released and they resemble as a cloud of yellow powder, it is termed as sulfur shower or shower of the sulfur flowers. The airborne pollens are caught by the micropyle of the nucellus soon after reaching the pollen grain or male gametophyte germinates by giving out a pollen tube. So the micropyle in the ovule, whenever the airborne pollen grains, they are caught by the micropyle of the nucellus, the pollen grains, they germinate by giving out a pollen tube. First of all, pollen tube formation takes place. The structure grows down, pierces through the female gametophyte and reaches the neck of the egonium. So there is gonium present, and this structure, it reaches down by formation of a pollen tube, and at the neck of the egonium, they are the male gametophyte, they are released. The tube nucleus migrates into the pollen tube. At this stage, the generative cell makes to form an upper stalk cell and a lower body cell. So, an upper stalk cell is formed and a lower body cell is formed. Just before fertilization, the body divides into two male gametes. First of all, there is an upper stalk cell and a lower body cell is formed. Upper stalk cell and this lower body cell is formed. And just before the fertilization, this upper stalk cell it will divide into two gametophytes, two male gametes. One of the male gamete it fuses with an egg nucleus, the act of fertilization. The other male gamete forms stalk cell and the tube nucleus soon disorganizes. So the other male gamete it forms the stalk cell and the tube nucleus, which the pollen tube which was formed, it will soon deorganize, it will dismantle. Now, development of the seed. The fertilized egg forms the zygote or oospore. After the fertilization with the female gamete or the egg, the fertilized egg it will form zygote or oospore and now it will divide mitotically to form nuclei. The four nuclei now divide simultaneously, forming four tiers, giving rise to 16-celled proembryo. Mitotically, it is going to divide, and these four nuclei will further give rise to 16-celled proembryo. And the lower or the proembryo tier gives rise to four independent embryos. Now, the proembryo or the lower embryo, it will give rise to four independent embryos. Of the four embryos, only one is going to mature, and the rest of them they disorganize. The mature embryo is surrounded by a haploid cell of the endosperm in the mature seed. So, first of all, fertilization takes place and zygote formation occurs. Now, this zygote it will divide mitotically to give rise to four nuclei, and these four nuclei it will give rise to 16-cell proembryo. Out of these 16-cell proembryo, there is the lower tier which it will give rise to four independent embryos. Now, out of these four independent embryos, only one is going to survive, only one is going to mature, while the rest of them they disorganize. The mature embryo it is surrounded by haploid cells of the endosperm in the mature seed. Now, this endosperm it contains abundance of food for the embryo when the seed germinates. Why endosperm formation takes place? For the nourishment of the seed which is present inside the nourishment of the embryo which is present inside the seed in order to nourish the small embryo. The seed of pinus consists of tissues representing the three generations, the testa, tegmen, and the nucellar cap. So, the seed it is going to represent three generations. The first one is the testa, tegmen, and the nucellar cap, which represents the part of the old sporophyte. The testa, tegmen, and the nucellar cap, it is the covering or the coating of the seed. So, testa, tegmen, the two coat of the which is termed as seed coat, and nucellar cap, it is 2N for the sporophytic generation. The structure which is retained from the sporophytic generation. Now, the second, the endosperm surrounding the embryo represents the female gametophyte. Obviously, the female gametophyte N, female gametophyte, it represents the endosperm, it represents the remnant of the female gametophyte, whereas the embryo, it represents the dormant future sporophyte. The 2N embryo, it represents future sporophyte. Okay, so there are three generations which are locked inside a seed. The first one is the mother's generation or the sporophytic generation 2N, which is represented by testes, tegmen, and nucellar cap. The second is the female gametophytic generation, which is N, represented as endosperm, and the third is the embryo, which is 2N again, but it is the future sporophyte. Now, Chincopsida. We have seen Coniferopsida, then Pinus, and now Chincopsida. Now, Chincopsida, this is an ancient group of gymnosperms which possesses deciduous leaves with percate or fork-like venation. There is a fork-like or divided venation, dwarf and long shoots, unisexual plants, and catkin inflorescence. So there is a kind of inflorescence which is termed as catkin inflorescence. So these Syncopsida, they have dioecious leaves and they are percate or fork-like venation. They are dwarf with long shoots and unisexual plants with a catkin inflorescence. Now, each microsporangiophore bears 2 to 12 microsporangia. So the microsporangiophore, it will bear around 2 to 12 microsporangia, multi multicellate male gametes, and clusters of megasporangiate structures, each with a long stalk and two ovules. So there, the microsporangiophore, it will bear around 2 to 12 microsporangia, and now multicell male gametes are formed. The clusters of megasporangiate structure, they have long stalk and two ovules. The ginkgo biloba maidenhair tree, it is one of the type of tree which is mentioned in Ginkgopsida. Ginkgo biloba is the single living representative of Ginkgopsida. So the single living representative of Ginkgopsida is Ginkgo biloba. This plant has not changed for the last several millions of years since its appearance in Triassic period. So it has no changes since the Triassic period. Therefore, it is called as living fossil. So the gymnosperm which is termed as living fossil, it is Ginkgopsida. It has survived because it is cultivated for its ornamental value. Most of the trees, they have survived because they were conserved. They were preserved because of their ornamental values. Ginkgo is a slow growing tall tree reaching up to 30 meters in height, and it is a dioecious plant with distinct male and female plants. Leaves are they are fan-shaped, entire, deciduate, and repeated. So the leaves, they are usually fan-shaped and they are entire. No, there is no, like in pinnate, there is incision due to which leaflets are formed. So the leaf, it is entire, but with a fan-shaped structure, and they are deciduate with repeated dichotomously branched percate venation. So there is branched furcate venation. The branches, they are of two types. Like in all the other gymnosperms, two type long and dwarf branches. The long branches, they will develop in the axils of the leaf. Long branches develop in the axils of leaf borne on main stem. Long branches also bear dwarf branches. So they also bear dwarf branches. Dwarf branches is also called spurs. Like previously we have seen that spurs, these are the short branches which bear foliage leaves. Now, dwarf branches in this are also called as spurs. Each spur bears a crown of leaf and male or female strobili. So each spur, it bears a crown of leaf and a male and female strobili. Male strobiles bear a number of sporangiophores and each bearing two microsporangia. So on these spurs, the male and the female strobili are contained, and this male strobili, it will bear a number of sporangiophores. These sporangiophores will bear two microsporangia. The female strobilus bear distinct megasporangiate structure. There are distinct megasporangiate structure, each with two ovules. There are two ovules seen. Ovule has three-layered integument. The three-layered integument is present, micropyle and pollen chamber after fertilization. So this ovule, it has three-layered integument, micropyle, and pollen chamber. After fertilization, ovule transform into orange-colored seed with a fleshy covering. The male plants are preferred because female plants emit an unpleasant smell of butyric acid. The ovule, which is tree-layered and a microbial and a pollen chamber. When the fertilization takes place, the orange colored seed are produced. And these, because of the production of seeds, there is unpleasant smell in the female plants, due to which they are not preferred. Usually, the male plants are preferred. Now, Nitopsida or Nitates. The members of this group possess certain characteristic of angiosperms, and this group is often considered as an intermediate between gymnosperm and angiosperm. We have seen that there are also some intermediate present. There was an intermediate present between the pteridophyte and gymnosperms, which were termed as pteridogymnosperms, and between the gymnosperm and angiosperm, which are termed as Nitopsida or Nitales. The important characteristics that show angiospermic relation are why they are termed as the predecessors of the angiosperm, because they show, first of all, reticulate venation. Second, the presence of vessel in secondary xylem. In the secondary xylem, when we will study about the anatomy of the flowering plants, we'll see that when the secondary growth takes place, or when the secondary xylem is formed, there is presence of vessels. Vessels are the structure which are present in the xylem. So there is presence of vessels in the secondary xylem. The ovules, they are enveloped with three-layered covering. We have seen just before that there was a covering of ovule with a three-layered integument. So this was a predecessor. Now in the details, there is also an ovule which is enveloped by a three-layered covering. The presence of oosphere without archegonia. So there is absence of archegonia, rapid growth of endosperm after fertilization. So the endosperm, it rapidly grows right after fertilization. So these are the 5 points which actually resemble between the gymnosperms and the angiosperms, and the relative thing between the gymnosperm and angiosperm is Nitopsida or Nitale. Why? Because of the reticulate venation, because of presence of vessels in the secondary xylem, because the ovules, they're enveloped with a three-layered covering, the presence of oosphere without archegonia, and the rapid growth of endosperm after fertilization. Now, Nitopsida are herbs, shrubs, trees, or even climbers, so they can be seen in many forms. Leaf shows spiral, opposite, and whorled phyllotaxy. Spiral means they're spirally present. Opposite means that they are opposite to one another. And whorled phyllotaxy, which is seen. Plants possess axillary buds, so the plants at the axil, at the end of the branches, there is buds present, which is termed as axillary bud. Plants are dioecious, that is unisexual, and unisexual. It means that the reproductive organs, they are found on the same plants, the male and the female ones. Reproductive organs in the form of strobili or cones. Male flowers have a basal sheath formed of perianth. The pollination is anemophilous, which is through air, and Nitopsida has three genera. These are Nitum, Ephedra, and Welwitschia. So even under Nitopsida, there are three genera. These are Nitum, Ephedra, and Welwitschia. Now, why these conifers, they were termed as the dominant flora of the temperate regions, and why they couldn't be present in the in around us, where we see that in the plain areas, why they are not the dominant ones, but in the Jurassic and the Triassic period, they were the dominant plants which were present. So conifers, they are the dominant flora of the temperate regions. The temperate regions, they have a bit of a colder climate. Because of the following reason, conifers are the dominant flora of north temperate regions. Adaptation to xerophytic environment. Xerophytic environments means that the water, the availability of water is very less. A number of xerophytic characters such as thick bark, needle-like leaves with sunken stomata. The stomata, it is sunken. The leaves, they are reduced to a needle-like structure. The bark is very thick. By all these things, the plant is actually minimizing transpiration. And when the plant minimizes transpiration, the requirement for water decreases. And as there is very less amount of water and a dry climatic condition present, the water is not very much profound near the plant. So it has to, first of all, efficiently absorb the water from the soil, and second of all, it has to very efficiently use it as well. It cannot waste it in the process of transpiration. So these kind of plant, they develop some characteristic features, the adaptations, in order to prevent the particular transpiration which is taking place in an excessive manner, and they adapt to the dry climatic condition or the xerophytic condition. So the first one was thick bark. The second is needle-like leaves and the stomata in which are sunken. When the stomata are sunken, what happens is that the opening and closure of stomata does not take place at the rate as it usually does. So the water, the transpiration, it is prevented. Hypodermis and transfusion tissues along with the slow growth rate make them to survive in dry areas successfully. The sunken stomata, hypodermis, and the transfusion tissue, all these things, it helps the conifers to survive in dry areas very successfully. Now, evergreen nature, the first thing is the adaptation, and the second thing is the evergreen nature of the plant. Evergreen nature. Due to their evergreen nature, conifers are able to thrive successfully in cold regions with distinct seasons. Whatever the season might be present, they have an evergreen nature. They will be present throughout the year. They do not shed their leaves and do not become bare, whereas flowering plants they shed their leaves on the approach of winter. So, as the winter approaches, the flowering plants they will shed their leaves. But the feature of conifers is that they do not shed their leaves when the winter approaches or whenever the climatic conditions are not suitable. So these 2 points it actually help in the successful adaptation of conifers to temperate climate, the not temperate climate. Now the uses or importance of the uh, gymnosperms. Manufacture of food. Conifers continue to manufacture food throughout the year, whereas flowering plants they shed their leaves during extreme cold period when the days are shorter. The enzymes. The enzymes of the conifers are functional even at 35 degrees Celsius, minus 35 degrees Celsius. Normally, the normal temperature which we see might be around 50 degrees Celsius or might be 1 degree Celsius. But in the temperate areas, the temperature is usually low, which may be ranging from 10 degrees Celsius to minus degrees. So the enzymes, they have an optimum temperature. They work at an optimum temperature at optimum pH. But the enzymes which are present in the gymnosperms, they work even at minus 35 degrees Celsius, which is one of the most precise reason why the gymnosperms they successfully thrive in the temperate areas. The temperature at which they become inactive in other plants, very obvious. The temperature at which the enzymes actually act is 37 degrees Celsius, the optimum temperature for the action of the enzymes. But in case of the gymnosperms, the enzymes they are able to act even at minus 35 degrees Celsius. They have that kind of enzyme. So what happens is that all these things they help in the survival of gymnosperms even in the cold areas. The above discussed characteristic make conifers a dominant constituent of flora of north temperate region. So They actually help all these points, they help in the survival of conifers in temperate regions. We have completed gymnosperms and the important classes of gymnosperms like Psychopsida and Spinopsida, Nettales, and Ginkgopsida. We have also discussed a point that conifers, they are the dominant flora of the temperate regions, and what are the main reasons why they are dominant. First of all, because of the adaptation to xerophytic environment. Second is because of the evergreen nature. They do not shed their leaves throughout, like like in the angiosperms, which usually shed their leaves when the winter approaches. The third one is the manufacture of food. They manufacture food throughout, continue to manufacture food throughout the years. Whereas the flowering plant, they in the cold period they usually shed their leaves and flowers, so they do not manufacture food throughout the year. And the fourth one is the presence of enzymes, which is the most important one. The enzymes which even act at minus 35 degrees Celsius, which is not the optimum temperature for action of enzymes. The optimum temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, but in gymnosperms, these enzymes are even acting at minus 35 degrees Celsius, which is the main and the most important reason why they were able to adapt and they were able to survive in the temperate areas. In the next session, we will continue with the angiosperms and its important characteristic features and the ecological and the economical importance it is providing, and the haplontic and the different life cycles the plant exhibits, haplontic, diplontic, and haplodiplontic, through a chart. Okay, thank you so much.